lots of businesses have been absolutely terrified about what's coming ahead, and we've talked a lot about households, but the business focus has only really begun to capture the imagination of the government, you get the sense. Do you think, from what we're hearing so far, what we're being briefed, that what Jacob Rees-Mogg is going to come out with will be enough?
Well, it won't be enough in the sense that everybody's going to pay a lot more for their energy this autumn and winter, even with these really big government support measures for both households and businesses. Some of us have been talking for many, many months about the fact that businesses have no energy price cap, and we're not talking about big businesses. They're often able to look after themselves. They have sophisticated trading desks. They can buy energy forward. I'm talking about small and medium-sized enterprises who, like you and me, Isabel, ring up the energy company, you know, shaking, with no bargaining power at all. So there's no energy price cap for business. A price cap will be introduced for business. It doesn't cap the total bill. It caps the unit of energy that they use. So if you use more, you will pay more. There are incentives to use less energy. A big thing about what Jacob Rees-Mogg, the new business secretary, is going to announce today is that this support for business, unlike the household support package, which will be detailed on Friday, which lasts for 2 years, this will last only 6 months. So that's not a lot of certainty for businesses. And after that, the indications are ministers will move to a case-by-case system whereby businesses won't know often until the last minute if they're going to get any support. So there's a little bit of certainty here for business, but precious little.
Interesting that included in all of this is discussion around services as well, because, you know, just for example, last week I was at a curriculum evening at my school, the headmistress making an announcement to parents saying, please donate money to the school. The budget that we use to pay for our children is being blown out of the water by our energy bills. This looks to be addressed by this announcement today as well.
That's right. I mean, hospitals, schools have massive energy bills. They are part of the public sector, but they still have to buy their energy, even if they're buying it effectively with state money. So they will be included too. I doubt that the 6-month limit on this assistance will apply to them. The devil will be in the detail. Really interesting, though, that the government, after this hiatus, after Her Majesty's funeral, is hitting the ground running because businesses were absolutely desperate to get some information.
Liam Halligan, just what were you, certainly one area you would be, or I wonder if you're at odds with Jonathan Reynolds. I mean, he's talking about fossil fuels and the government's got to announce how they will detach themselves from being dependent on that. You think fracking may be back in business?
Indeed, fracking is the quite controversial method of extracting gas from shale rock. You have to sort of have mini explosions underground to extract the gas. It's been very successful in America. It's helped America in recent years to become an energy exporter. For years, America's depended on foreign energy, but not now. And so the wholesale price of gas in America is much, much lower than it is in Europe.
And it affects their inflation rate as well. It keeps it down.
It does, and it means that their businesses can be more competitive in some areas. Now, when Liz Truss made that truncated announcement in the House of Commons before the unfortunate news of Her Majesty's deterioration in health emerged, she did mention that she wanted to lift the moratorium on fracking. This moratorium was introduced in November 2019, just before Boris Johnson went for re-election. He thought it would appeal to younger voters and the environmentally conscious voters. Liz Truss is now going to lift that moratorium. Whether or not it happens in Jacob Rees-Mogg's announcement today about supporting business or later this week, even in Kwasi Kwarteng's mini-budget on Friday, we don't know. So, as part of my work here on GB News, I talk to many, many business leaders. And one person I spoke to recently is Francis Egan. He's the CEO of Quadrilla. Now, Quadrilla is the leading fracking company in the UK. They've actually explored fracking wells up in the northwest, in particular in Lancashire, near Blackpool. And Liz Truss said in the Commons that if we lift the moratorium on fracking, there could be gas fracked in the UK within 6 months. Now, a lot of people poured cold water on that. A lot of people said that's outrageous, that's ridiculous. So I asked Francis Egan, the guy who really knows about fracking, whether or not that 6-month time frame put forward by Liz Truss was realistic. And this is what he said.
Quadrilla has 2 existing wells that we've already drilled into the shale rock in Lancashire, just outside of Blackpool. And in fact, we had partially fracked and tested gas back to the surface from those wells. So we know the gas is already there. So we would have to mobilize equipment back onto that site and complete the job. Now, from getting the equipment onto site, that should only take a matter of months. Initially, it would be relatively small, modest quantities of gas, but it's an important starting point.
Okay, right. Liam, thank you very much indeed for all of that.
A little bit of breaking news. Yeah, a little bit of breaking news for you. The business energy relief first announcement has dropped, as we like to say in the industry, from the government. They are saying that gas and electricity costs for UK businesses, charities and public sector bodies will be capped at £211 per megawatt hour, while gas prices will be capped at £75 per megawatt hour, in line with what was reported overnight. Suppliers are to apply the reduction automatically to all eligible non-domestic customers, with the government compensating suppliers for the cost. And this will apply to contracts signed since April the 1st this year and run until the 31st of March next year. Liam Halligan, thoughts on that first announcement?
Those numbers were knocking around in briefings last night. They're about between a third and a half below prices currently on the spot market, prices that businesses are currently paying unless they're tied into an existing contract. So it's a major move by the government. A lot of people are saying it's going to cost tens of billions, even hundreds of billions of pounds. I would say all that, it's true, all that depends on where the wholesale price of energy actually is. And that, in turn, depends on a lot of the geopolitical factors we've been hearing about this morning, not least the war in Ukraine.